This episode is brought to you by Midwest Night Watchers, found everywhere on your favorite podcast platforms.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Piercing the Veil.
Hey, happy Sunday afternoon.
Afternoon, yeah, because we have a UK guest, Kate Ray from Hawthorne, or Hare and the Hawthorne. So we're doing a 2 p.m., which would be 8 p.m. UK time, I believe.
Yep, and I hope everyone's staying cool. It has been hot. Hot.
Hot.
It is hot.
So we're going to be talking about remote viewing today with Kate, and that's a very interesting subject, so I can't wait to get into that.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. This is her fourth time?
At least 3 that we've had her on. It's been fantastic. We talked about fairies and fae and fae folk, and now we moved on to remote viewing, so who knows where this will end up, and maybe we'll be able to do some more subjects with Kate and venture off into cryptids and UFOs and whatever else kind of mystery, high strangeness subjects.
I think our chat's still talking about sniffing fairies.
Sniffing
they still
fairies.
bring it up. Yeah, they still bring up the sniffing fairy part.
Wow. That's funny. I forgot all about that. What do fairies smell like?
I don't think we ever did find out what they smell like.
No, I don't. I think they smell like rainbows and chocolate, or
rainbows and chocolate.
Cotton candy. I don't know.
Oh my.
Well, let's say hi to everybody in chat.
All right. So we've got Linda, Jonaside, Daryl, Tracy, we got Dwarfy, we got Joe, we got Paranormal World, Arcane, I hope I pronounced that right. I've got my sister Mary, which that means my sister Lori's probably in here somewhere. Got Jonaside, got Joe, we got Andy from the UK. Welcome in, guys. So I know it's a different time for everybody, but I think they're kind of starting to get used to us popping on at 2 o'clock real quick.
I kind of like this 2 p.m. schedule. It's kind of nice.
I do too. What's the chat thing? You guys like the 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday? Hi, Lori. So we might go ahead and just, try to keep it 2 o'clock in the afternoon, our time. I really do kind of like the afternoons. And then we're done for the rest of the day.
Yeah, because normally we do 6 p.m. Central our time, and then we get done and we watch some other shows and it's time to go to bed. But now we'll have the afternoon free to do whatever we want.
Yeah. And I know we haven't been on, let's see, we've missed a couple Wednesdays. We've been having, not just us, everybody's having internet issues, internet speed, tech issues. I still had a problem trying to sign in with my camera. And plus, guess what? The speaker is coming out of the monitor, not my speakers. It's still messed up. I'm hearing from the monitor itself.
Wow.
So, and now the internet speed today, oh my goodness, we got good internet speed today. But the other day it was low. I mean, everyone's saying, they're having issues. So I don't know if it's the solar flares or what's going on, but
I don't know.
camera problems, mic problems, internet problems.
Maybe somebody's remote viewing us and blocking us.
Ooh, well, I know other people's channels are saying the same thing. They're freezing up. They're getting kicked out of StreamYard. I'm not sure what's going on. Aliens are coming.
Oh,
Maybe it's
yeah,
it's the space penguins. They're doing it.
I saw a thing the other day. Everybody keeps talking about this space invasion, alien invasion. It's like this have to be the slowest invasion the world has ever seen. I mean, my gosh, I thought they were already here.
Yeah. Are you going to do it or what?
What's taking so long?
Robot grandma. Oh,
I like Robot Grandma. I just made a slide for Robot Grandma the other day. We don't have a guest yet lined up to talk about Robot Grandma, but I made a really cool graphic for it already.
Oh my. Yeah, Andy just learned about the Robot Grandma.
That's another one. I think we're going to have to make a t-shirt with Robot Grandma.
Yeah.
I really like that. Just like the space penguins for the Tacoma, Washington space penguins that we're wearing today. I think we're going to have to make a t-shirt for a Robot Grandma.
That'll be trippy. All right, well, let's get Kate up.
Hey, let's bring Kate up and let's start talking about some remote viewing.
And try not to talk about sniffing fairies.
Oh, we got to talk about that right off the bat.
Yeah.
Hi, Kate.
Hi, Kate.
How are you both doing? I am sat here listening to you guys. My cheeks are hurting already from just grinning. Sniffing fairies. I had forgotten about that one as well. I'd completely forgotten about that one.
Our chat still keeps bringing it up. Yeah. They're still laughing about sniffing fairies.
We'll be doing a show just on with another guest or just talking. All of a sudden, somebody will bring up sniffing fairies just out of the blue. Like, oh my gosh.
I tell you what, we ought to make a rumor that it's actually a very, very British pastime to go out and find fairies and smell them.
That's right. One of our friends in chat said they were going to make a sign, no sniffing fairies to be able to make and put on your property.
Yeah, that would be brilliant. I only found a couple of cases. I don't know whether I spoke to them about them because after that episode, because somebody asked, didn't they, what do fairies smell like? And I put it out to the Fairy Investigation Society. And they were really intrigued by it. They were like, that's something that they hadn't considered. So they went out and they did the tenderly thing of searching online and looking at past encounters. And I think there was only two. One of them was kind of on the, I would say, the demonic side, and it smelled sulfury, sort of a chemical. And I think the other one was like an earthy smell. So like you, I would have expected sugar and spice and all things nice with fairies. But,
right.
Sulfur and earth. There you go.
Brimstone.
Yeah.
Yep.
So don't sniff fairies. They don't smell good.
And even with just not to, we're getting on a different subject, but even with paranormal, when you have a visitor like grandpa, grandma, you smell sugar cookies or maybe baked goods or maybe their favorite perfume or pipe tobacco. So it just depends on who you're talking to. So if something's smelling sulfury and brimstone, I would think it's on the dark side, like you said. But if you smell sugar cookies and all that good stuff, then I think, okay, you're doing good. You're hitting in the right direction.
Well, I'll let you know if I ever sniff one. You'll be the first to know.
If you're smelling sugar cookies, it might be a Keebler elf instead.
Yeah.
Could you imagine being a fairy and the first time you're encountered with a human and they grab you and start? That's your first encounter of a fae and you're sniffing them.
I can imagine fairies doing that to us, though.
They probably do. They probably sneak up and smell our hair and
Maybe we smell.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can't believe we're on this subject again. It's brilliant.
Oh my goodness.
Well, let's go ahead and switch gears and get back to our main subject, remote viewing. So you can go ahead and tell us a little bit how you got involved or what your aspect in the remote viewing is, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so it's something that I hadn't really ever spoken about publicly, and I don't know why. I because it's a big part of the work that I do within the paranormal field is remote viewing, and I decided we have a paranormal meetup in this country. It's brilliant, called Parameet, and it's the first time I've ever spoken about it from my perspective of what I do and how it works for me. And when I started to put the talk together, obviously the research aspect was bringing up military, government, etc. But it made me realise how little I really knew, because I'd felt like I'd been very, very isolated, because I just do it. It's just something that I've done for many years and never really kind of tapped into what other people believe it is. And one of the first things that I find fascinating is the language of it. So I've never been comfortable with remote viewing because it's very much attached to the government, that term.
Mhm.
I mean, so I would be interested from you guys to start with about whether this is whether we hark back to that. Is it is it a shamanic journey? Is it seership? Is it is it an oracle thing? I'm never comfortable with terminology, and I'd love to find a word that I just go, yeah, that sits right with this.
Mhm.
I know the research I've done on it, or the time that I've spent watching videos or whatever, it seems like psychics start out
Yeah,
and then they get into the remote viewing, or it's kind of hand in hand. Same thing
yeah.
with whether maybe ESP. You know,
Hmm.
that was a big subject back in the day, and people don't hardly ever use the term ESP anymore.
Yeah, you don't hear the word ESP anymore, that term.
No, no, and it's unusual because it's ESP's not really been replaced by anything. I mean, an
Right.
extrasensory perception
Mm-hmm.
kind of makes out that it's a gift, that you have something extra, but it's not. We all have this perception. We all have
Right.
the ability to tap into this perception. So yeah, but ESP just went, didn't it? And
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
didn't. Nothing took it over. Nothing was
They just
there as an.
yeah, they just stopped using that term, I guess. Intuitive gifts. You know,
Yeah,
Yeah, because I
yeah.
remember back like in the 70s when Uri Geller was big and hot on the scene. You know, it was on the Johnny Carson show and the Merv Griffin show, and he was bending spoons and doing the ESP thing. It was really big back then. Then it kind of slowly dropped off where you didn't really hear about it.
I think there was a lot of charlatans, though, wasn't there? A lot of people,
Yes.
not charlatans, but a lot of people who had the ability, but then the narrative of the media took over and sort of, put them in a bad light, eventually put them in a bad light. I've just seen, actually, so Bigfoot Dwarf has said spying as a word, and I'm grinning at that. I think that's good, and I think that's a really good starting point. In terms of how I use it, I want to say off the bat that I will never remote view unless I have absolutely the full consent of the person that I'm doing it for. I would never spy on anybody. I think if nothing else, if somebody else can pick up on your energy in their property, it can freak them out. You almost kind of have a ghostly experience when somebody is remote viewing. And I've had people who've said, you can remote view my property. It's haunted. I need somebody in to have a look on a psychic level. And then they've been able to tell me what day and what time of day I was in their property, because they've had a sense of me. And I've said, yeah, I'll do it over the next couple of weeks. I've not given them a specific time, but they've come back to me and said, were you here at, Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock? And I was like, yeah. And they said, I knew you were here. So another psychic was picking. So I would never ever sort of go out and spy on people. However, I do know that people do it. I do know
Right.
that people will remote view the living, their properties, without consent, and
Right.
there is a massive ethical question about tapping into this.
Well, we weren't really going to get into the government aspect, but when you bring up spying, you have to mention the government because that's why they used the remote viewers was was to actually look at our enemies or, missile bases or government secrets, whatever you want to do. And they developed this program using psychics to start with, and they started developing it over time. Now there's people out here in everyday people, that do remote viewing, and that's just to gather information on weird and strange things, whether it's moon bases on Mars or the moon and stuff like that.
I do wonder what happens to your own, and I'm going to go woo-woo for a minute. What happens to your own energetic levels when you use it for nefarious reasons? Even if you believe, if you're part of the military, you believe you're doing it for the greater good of your country, and it turns out not to be. I wonder what that would do to you on an energetic level, knowing that your remote viewing could have killed hundreds of people. It's like, how does that kind of come back energetically? It's an interesting point.
Yeah, because there's people like to mention karma, but they always say karma is going to come back around if you do something evil or whatever, and so I would think the same thing with the military. If like you're talking about, if you're looking and it ends up harming people because of the things that you looked into and did, or maybe self-defense, for our nation, I guess it would be a good thing as far as we're concerned, but not so good for the other people.
Yeah. And I mean, there's the other side of it as well. If you're a remote viewer, I think that when you're remote viewing, there's kind of an aspect of being vulnerable within that kind of energetic realm. And if another country has remote viewers, that can come into your space, into your vulnerability, or even pick you out as a remote viewer. And I don't know what the physicality of I've never ever tested my own physicality within a location, whether I can do things, whether I can move things, whether I can change somebody's perception, whether they can hear me. That's not what I'm there for. I've never tried it, and I don't think I ever will, because it's very invasive. But if the theory is that they can do that they can come in and use their energetic being within that space, you're talking psychic warfare going off.
Right.
If you're entering into that.
Yeah, so I would assume that you would have to put safeguards on your property, just like when you use Himalayan salt or sage to clear the paranormal out. I think you would have to put some kind of protection psychically over where you're at, so you cannot be invaded by these people that can trace you.
Yeah, I think so, and I think there's probably ways to ramp it up even more. How to protect yourself. But I always think that because it's not our normal state of being, it's not a sense that we use on a regular basis, that we have no capability of understanding what can happen in those scenarios. I think it's very dangerous. Talking about the whole military thing, as part of my talk at Parameet, one of the things that I did use was unfortunately it didn't work very well, but I used a clip from Men Who Stare at Goats. And I absolutely love that movie. And anybody who's watched it, tell me that you did not try and cloudburst at some point in your life. But I love the kind of interplay between the dark side of using psychic abilities and the light side, if you like, of using psychic abilities. So you've got one team who are out there saying they want to put an end to war, and they've got peace in mind as they're doing it, and then you've got this darker side that's like just for the power, just for the country's power. And I think that's what the struggle is, that when people realize that they have these abilities, how you use it is a real kind of ethical key to where we go with this, because I do believe we can all do it.
Right. I think it's a gift. I mean, but it just depends on how you've developed it and what you use it for. Because some people don't astral travel, some people don't see the stuff we're talking about, and some mediums or psychics just do it like for missing cases to help the police, and find stuff like that. They don't really go out and venture like moon bases or the Ark of the Covenant, which is a really great case. The Ark of the Covenant. Did you see the CIA file on the Ark of the Covenant?
No, I haven't seen that. I need my pen again, don't I? All right, I'm writing notes down of things that I need to research.
Page
the
2.
CIA, it's all over the place now. The CIA has released a document from the remote viewing program where the remote viewer viewed where the Ark of the Covenant is and what it looked like, and it talked about the watchers. There's entities in there watching it.
Yeah.
So
This
whether
is what
they're
I'm
remote
talking about.
viewers or they're angels or there's something else that is watching this, and supposedly it has some kind of device that will energize it when the time is right, and it will open up this. So it's the Ark of the Covenant's in another concealed, not coffin, but sarcophagus or something, and I guess it'll open up when the time is right.
Yeah, I mean, I did read a number of years ago. It's very vague about how they think that it comes from static electricity. That this outer casing was covered in some kind of material that created static electricity, which actually electrified the main body of the Ark of the Covenant. And I loved that theory, and I would love to know, what happens when that happens. What's going to happen. It's Pandora's box, isn't it?
Right. I mean, even in the biblical terms, you talk about people that went to steal the Ark of the Covenant and they got electrocuted or killed right on the spot just by touching it. So, I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. It's a fascinating subject. But anyway, it's out there. All you have to do is look up remote viewing Ark of the Covenant, and that CIA file will pop up, and it's a PDF, and it has all the pages that this remote viewer listed. Well, actually, I think I have I'll just pop it up. I have a couple pictures of it, actually. So I can entice people by showing them just the first couple pages of it. So there's the first page, and that's the CIA document, RDP 96, all those numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And the project is Sunstreak. So they gave them a training target of the Ark of the Covenant, and it was the viewer 032. So the government always assigns their remote viewers a number, kind of like 007, so. And then the next page is actually the document that describes everything that the remote viewer saw. So it said the target is in a container. The container has another container inside of it. The target is fashioned of wood, gold, and silver. The target is similar to the shape to AOL, and I don't know what AOL is. A coffin is decorated with seraphim. See sketch page 16. So there's also the sketches in this document of everything that the remote viewer is seeing. Because I don't know if you do it that way or not, but I know Jessica Jones does it. When she sees something, she'll scribble, whether circles or squares or whatever she's seeing or however she's interpreting the data coming in. So it says the target is located somewhere in the Middle East, as the language spoken individuals present seem to be Arabic. And it talks about the visual surrounding mosque domes, wearing white clothing, black hair, dark eyes. And we've always been told here, since we've been digging down the Ark of the Covenant, that it was over in Ethiopia.
Right.
But Ethiopia could fit this description, even, as far as people wearing white clothes, because the people that are in the church that guard the Ark of the Covenant wears white clothes. And they have dark hair, they have dark eyes, they speak Arabic.
Yeah, it does sound like the Ethiopian. So there was just one remote viewer doing this, or was it a group?
This was the one that they put the most credit to, but they usually have teams,
right? Yeah,
that'll do it. But this is the one document that they wanted to release, and as far as I know, it's the most credible one that they wanted to talk about.
And
So at the very bottom, it says the target is protected by entities, see page 14, and can only be opened now by those who are authorized to do so. This container cannot be opened until the time is deemed correct. Once it is time to open the container, the mechanisms of the lock system will be found to be fairly simple. The individuals opening the container by prying or striking are destroyed by the container's protectors through a power unknown to us.
oh, wow. Wow.
I wish I knew more. I wish there was a bigger document explaining every single thing. So here's the page where he was writing, and these are the watchers. There's they have, it says watched by, and I don't know what that word is.
Wow. Does that say mummies?
Yes, he said there was on the wall or around, there was mummies. So I don't know if that was like the Egyptian style coffins or, sarcophaguses on the wall, or if it was actually mummies.
AOL. I wish we.
I don't know. So anyway, that's that. So that document you can look up online.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
And it was interesting you were saying about the drawing aspect of it. I do that, and I have been. I've been on a couple of TV shows doing psychic artists, but doing it remote viewing in the first instance. And I find drawing is much easier because I don't lose it to trying to over intellectualize the process.
Right.
So when I'm going to go through it, I found that the best way to put a stop to a clear remote viewing is by second guessing myself or trying to be logical about what I'm seeing. Instead of, I can question it or I won't say something that I've seen because I find it ridiculous or odd or out of place. And when that happens, when I don't interpret it right, it tends to diminish my ability to be able to remote view or to go back into that particular area. But yeah, definitely visuals for me don't lie. So if I'll remote view and then I'll sit down and I'll do a sketch of the people or the property or the entities or the energies that I'm coming across, and I have to do that fresh from that remote view. And it means I can quite easily go back into that property and carry on my experience. But where if I try to intellectualize it or forget things or miss things out or put things to a side, it hampers it. And I don't know why. I don't know why it hampers it. I think it's because that logical side of my brain kind of kicks in.
Right.
And stops the, I don't know whatever mechanism it is that allows me to actually do that.
Well, I think as humans, we tend to overthink things and we try to make it make sense to us. And remote viewing is not about it making necessarily sense to us. We're just supposed to interpret the data and put it down. Usually that's why, like that sheet I showed you, it says simple drawings, whether it's a triangle or a square, a circle, waves for whatever it's supposed to represent. Just something that you know what it is, but yet not try to define it by human aspect as far as, you have to draw this beautiful tree and house and whatever you're remote viewing. No, it's just simple things to remind you of what you viewed and the data was.
Well, it reminds me of Jessica's notes when Jessica shows her note, the Cryptid Huntress, when she does her remote viewing show. She pulls up these little scribbles and drawings and similar to what we were seeing.
I think the weirdest one, and the one as well where you have to remember that there is symbolism at play as well as an actuality at play. And one of them, I was remote viewing a haunted property, and it was the spirit of a woman who had passed, and she was overlaying her face with a cat's face, and it looked real, and it was kind of trying to morph into human. And when I asked her to remove it, she had no eyes. It was just deep sockets. And I could never get to the bottom of that. But I think that she was overlaying this cat's face because she didn't want me to see that she had no eyes.
Hmm.
So she was kind of overlaying. But that was a very, very strange one. But I find that when you're working with astrals or ethericals or even fairies on a remote view, they will do things that will give you a hint to their personality or a hint to how they live or a hint to usually what they're doing in a property. So when I remote view it, 90% of the time I'm asked to remote view a property because there's haunting activity occurring in that property. And I find it easier to sit at home and lift myself into that property than I do being in that property. Because when you're in somebody else's house, you kind of get surrounded by all kinds of energies of the living people. You start making logical decisions because you've seen photographs or you've seen decor or whatever else. So it kind of clears the deck for me that I can just go, I have no idea what this person's house looks like. I've got no idea what the person looks like. I'm just going to go. So I usually ask for a photograph of a front door. Nothing else of the building, just a front door. And this is where it's weird for me. I have to be polite and knock. That's why I asked for a front door. It's weird, isn't it? It's very British. So I go up to the door and I'll knock on the door. It's never not opened, but it always opens. And I always say hello when I go through the door. So it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, at least you're polite.
Yeah. You never know what you're going to encounter on the other side is my feeling. And if you're not, I mean, I've had a couple of occasions where I've had some very odd entities that have been really spooked by me being there and have become instantly aggressive, not because they're aggressive per se as energies, but because they've been, what the hell is going on? You're not a ghost. You're not from my realm. What are you doing here? And you just get this rush of like aggression and, expletives and being told to F off and,
Right.
all kinds of things. So if I knock, it tends to kind of dissipate that kind of angry rush.
Yeah, I never thought about remote viewing fairies and cryptids and other things like that. And that opens you up, like you said, into a whole nother realm. I mean, we were talking about other remote viewers or whatever blocking you or following you back to your place, but then you got the supernatural aspect also.
Oh yes, definitely.
Wow.
I mean, for people who go out ghost hunting, we always tell guests, it's very rare that these things follow you home, blah blah blah. But when you're doing it regularly, you do get the odd occasion where spirits of the dead or other energies will follow you. And it's the same with remote viewing. It will be something will just go, oh, I quite like you, I'm going to kind of head in your direction. I've only had it on a couple of occasions, and they have been fairy type entities, but I don't mind them because they never really stick around for long. And if you give them jobs to do, then I sound nuts right now. Every time I talk about like remote viewing, especially when it comes to fairies, it sounds nuts. And I think if I hadn't have had very solid material evidence to go with the etherical or the fairy aspect or the the spirits of the dead aspect, I wouldn't even talk about it. For instance, a case that I did for Help My House is Haunted, I was remote viewing that for about 2 weeks before I actually went into the property, and I had drawn pictures and I knew they were living of the gentleman that lived in the property, and it was spot on. And I drew their hallway, and there were aspects of their hallway that I could never have known, like double archways as you go through. I drew where the stairs was. There's no way I could have known those things. So whereas people could say, oh, you're mad and you're making it up, but I could also tell them what activity they were having and how it was kind of affecting the household. But if I wasn't able to draw those physical aspects and to be verified by locations and other people, I think I'd been in an insane asylum. I think I'd have put myself there, because it's just nuts. It
Right.
sounds nuts.
It is. I mean, when you talk to people about remote viewing, other than the government project, people think, what is that? What do you mean? What are you talking about? You can see, talking about other entities being able to see you and block you
Yeah.
or push you out of a site because they don't want you. Because that's the other thing is that there are blockers out there that are stop you from digging or seeing what they don't want you to see. Just like you were talking about the person putting a cap mask or a different image over their face. They didn't want you to see what they really looked like.
Yeah.
It's just a fascinating world and different dimension. And Andy asked a question.
Yeah, it's a good
Could
question.
shadow people be the way we see remote viewers in our dimensions?
Hi, Andy, by the way. Um, yeah, I totally believe that. I think not all shadow people, but I think that there are occasions when that does happen. I had a personal experience probably about 4 years ago. Woke up to a very tall shadow figure, and I kind of knew who it was. Not by size or height or whatever, but I just instantly in my brain, I just thought that person's checking up on me, and not in a negative way. They were just checking up on me. However, their form came across really quite frightening, really
Oh,
quite frightening. So yeah, I do believe that our energetic beings in another space can semi-manifest, and there's nothing to say that wouldn't form a shadow, wouldn't just be a mass as opposed to something more ghostly, if you like.
right. So when you remote view or we astral travel, however you want to look at it, when we go somewhere else, do you think there is like a data stream, some kind of residue that we leave when we enter in and out? So that's how they can find us and track us back, whether it's frequencies or something that they're able to track us back to where we are. How do you think that works?
I've never really thought about it, to be fair, but my first instinct is we all have a unique frequency.
Like a signature,
And
yeah.
yeah, I definitely think that. And I think just being able to remote view, that just says to me that other things can do it. So whereas I don't know where in the world, I'm just given a front door, I don't know. It's usually in this country. I don't know where in the country it is, but I can go to that property because I've been given that image and the permission to go to that property. And maybe it's just that it's an absolute thought that that's where they want to go. They want to head to that remote viewer for whatever reason, and they can do it.
The reason I brought up like a ribbon or a signature that they can trace us at, because one of the interviews with one of my favorite bands was Van Halen, and Sammy Hagar talked about his interaction with aliens, that he could physically feel and see like a little ribbon, like an electronic wave going from him to them, and that's how they connected, communicated, and put thoughts into his head. So that made me
Yeah.
think if we remote view, maybe that ribbon is there also that they can see and grab a hold of and trace.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm sure we've all had those moments where we've had a sudden urge to telephone somebody, and it's like a real urge that you can't describe, and you phoned them and they really needed you at that precise moment to call you. And maybe that's that energetic ribbon that it just kind of, they've reached out to you on an emotional level, and it's just pumped out their energy in your direction. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Wow. And on a side note, Andy also asked earlier, did you acquire the object that you wasn't sure about? Now
Oh,
you
Andy,
don't have
no,
to say that. This is just for you and
no,
Andy.
I
So
will. I will. I was thinking about this today. So I've been humming and hawing about purchasing a haunted object, and yeah, and the day I was meant to pick this haunted object up, the spring on the shockers on the car shattered. Literally, I pulled out the drive and it just went and exploded everywhere.
really?
So, and it was that night when I did the podcast with Andy, and I was saying, is this a sign? Do I pick this thing up? And I'm still really nervous. I'm still on the fence. It's still there, but I don't go for haunted objects. It's not something that I'm drawn to. But I was actually videoing a property to maybe ghost hunting, and I've got a video, and I saw it with my own eyes of this haunted bear that made a movement that was totally unnatural, and that really drew me to it. So no, Andy, I haven't took the plunge yet, but it's still not on. It's still not off the cards.
And speaking of Andy, how often he's your new co-host on your show? How often is the show going to be on with you and Andy? Is it once a month, every week, every 2 weeks?
I think it's going to be once a month because our schedules are, it's difficult. We're both busy people.
Right.
So making that schedule is quite difficult, and there'll be bits and bobs in between of me doing purely fairy stuff. I'm sure. So yeah, I'm excited about it. It's going to be really interesting because Andy kind of really gets how my brain works and kind of the questioning and stuff like that. It's really good. It's really good.
Yeah, he's a great co-host. The last show you did was amazing. It was great.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, we love Andy.
Poor Andy.
Now Tammy's asking, can you help find missing people? Have you ever done that? Is that anything that you've ever done?
It is, and it's I can't really give any details about the situation because it was on the quiet for the police. So I was part of a spiritual circle, and as a spiritual circle, we located a very important item of clothing in a murder case, and because it wasn't on the books that we were doing it. In terms of missing people, and I'm sure other people get this, I'm absolutely sure, I can see a face pop up, and before I've even read anything, I know whether that person is dead or alive. It's like an instant. Yeah, they're not with us anymore. They're gone. But no, I haven't searched for missing people. I think one of the problems that I have with that is because it's so emotively entangled.
Right.
And so heightened emotionally that for me personally, plowing through that as an empath, I would find that really distressing, because you take on board everybody's energy that's imbued in that surge.
Yeah, that's a tough thing because a lot of it's emotional draining and physically draining to do it also, depending on how long your sessions are. A lot of times people, even clairvoyant or any of these people that do things like this, they actually have to lay down and rest. And that was the biggest thing with Casey. Any of these people that do this, like the sleeping prophet, he literally had to rest because it just was so draining.
Yeah, because you're dealing with just an absolute bomb of energies, and that's why I particularly like going into haunted properties, because I can disassociate myself other than the people who are experiencing it, and I tend to try and put them aside for a time to be able to really crack the code of what's going on. That's what I find fascinating, and that actually is quite an energizing thing to me. I think when it's on an earthly level and people's lives are at risk, or there's that kind of heightened emotion, I think I would, or even if it's prophecy, I don't remote view into the future, so I don't tend to go, I go space, not time,
Right.
so much, because I don't know, I'm not quite sure how much of that we're meant to know without it being really, really damaging, not only to the person for telling it, but also to communities around. It's a hard one, isn't it, on the ethics side?
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of remote viewers, though, they don't like to do missing people sometimes because, like what you just described, because the trauma comes with the remote viewing. Some of them will actually feel the pain and suffering that they went through. So you have all that emotions, all that trauma coming through, and you're just sitting there, you're trying to figure out, okay, where's this person at, locating, are they alive? They dead? But then you also have that emotional and physical feeling coming along with the data.
Yeah. And it's going through that, if somebody's met a really traumatic death, then I can imagine, the whole horror scenario of reliving that to pinpoint where that person's energy is last based. I don't know whether I could do that. Years ago, I became fascinated. There was a very strange case in the UK, and I can't remember the lad's name, but basically this lad he'd gone drinking with his mates, and he'd ended up wandering off. I think it was in the early hours of the morning. Really lovely lads, really sweet guy. And he just disappeared. They've got him on CCTV going down one street. He turned into an alleyway and just disappeared. And I became quite obsessed with what was going on. And I think that was my real first experience of remote viewing. And I actually came across him sort of in a lucid type state of not quite asleep, not quite awake. And he was stood in a field with a chain link fence, and he was pointing to a garbage disposal place, a dump. And he was pointing to it. And I was like fascinated, and I knew this guy was dead and he was coming to me in spirit. And lo and behold, he had crawled into a dumpster and had been taken by the lorry, and he'd literally been dumped in rubbish and had died throughout the process of, because he got into this dumpster to get some sleep. And that just blew me away. But the thing is as well with that kind of thing is, he's like, what is the point of me knowing? What is the point of him giving me that information? His mum was searching for him. The police were searching. Can you imagine if I'd rang up the police and said, hang on a minute, I kind of know where he is.
Right. And you'd be a suspect.
A suspect. Yeah. Or it would be like, you're insane, don't waste our time. You're mad. So I often wonder why we get these kind of uninvited prophetic kind of moments in life. I've spoke to a lot of people about it, and a lot of people have said, I've had this dream and I know it's significant, and I know I need to tell somebody just in case it comes true. It's never the lottery numbers, is it?
No.
Nobody ever has the lottery numbers or how to, really improve the life or improve the life of other people.
Wendell brought that up in chat. So could you give me the lottery numbers then for next week? Now, I think you probably see, I don't know if the universe or whatever laws or bodies govern us. I don't know if you could really do the lottery or a winning thing. I just don't think you can. I don't know, because surely somebody would have already done it by now or made tons of money.
They probably have, and not really said anything. And I think it's probably a different set of skills. It's and I'm a big believer that the universe will provide you with what you need and not what you want. So obviously I don't need a big lottery win. That's what I told myself.
Yeah, I'm doing fine. I don't need any more money.
Well, we were talking about shadow people. I know in our past shows, we've had people bring up, could orbs be somebody remote viewing?
I think this is just my personal view that when it's a true orb,
Right.
I do believe that it's like, I don't know whether I've said this to you guys before, but like, the old-fashioned televisions, when you used to turn them off and they used to kind of go whoop, and you used to get that light,
little dot,
flash of light, and it was on. I remember getting static burn from touching that as a child, because the static buildup was so much. And I wonder whether true orbs are that kind of suspension of an energy or an entity either coming into this realm or going out of this realm, and it's just that concentration of an energetic being not quite breaking through the veil either way. But that's just my theory.
That makes sense. I mean, me and James talked about this over and over, whether orbs that we've seen are remote viewers, or when another remote viewer goes somewhere, can another person see that person? So that makes sense. I mean, but what do I know? I don't know. I'm just speculating.
Yeah, I'm not saying every single orb, because that's the case. We've got hundreds in our field, so I don't think there's that many people out there.
Yeah, a lot of people watching us for some reason.
That's a lot of people. So I think there's a combination of many, many things what the orbs are, but it does make sense that if you're concentrating on a place, you're astral traveling out of body, and you kind of pop into an energy orb.
Definitely. I mean, if you think about fairies, and fairies are often cited in folklore as orbs, as glowing lights. You've got will-o'-the-wisp, you've got all kinds that are surrounded by light. These are all energetic beings who know how to manipulate their energy. We don't. We don't know how to do that. So those ones in your field, they could be aliens popping in and out dimensionally. They could be fairies popping in and out dimensionally. It could just be that is a symbol of an energy that's coming in and out.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I mean, the energy is really something that we're projecting out, just like we project out our energy, whether it's good, bad, whatever our feelings are, we project that energy out of us. So when we astro travel or maybe remote view, that energy appears as a ball or an orb, like you were saying. So, because we don't actually travel there physically, obviously, so it has to be energy form somehow.
We'll do an experiment. I'll come and remote view your place next week, and you can tell me if you've seen me or not.
If we see you, yeah. That'd be an awesome experiment. We're game for it.
Yeah, let us know what's in our field. Well, it's not our field.
No, I want to be in my chair upstairs doing my thing. Jane's going to be in her room doing her thing, and we want to see if we can see you, if we can see the energy.
All right. I'm up for that.
Only you, Kate Ray, has permission to come in and remote view us in our house.
And then boop us in my nose.
Yeah, give me that little tingly feeling on the back of my neck or something somehow.
Right.
Uh-oh, Kate's here. I can feel it. So Wendell, who asked about the lottery, also asked if do you think you would be able to find, like, say, Bigfoot, or maybe why we don't find any? They're dead. Is there like a graveyard, or would you be able to remote view what they do with their dead?
I would give it a go, but it comes down to consent, and Bigfoot can't give me consent to do that. And so would I be when I'm giving consent to go into somebody's property because it's haunted or they have haunting activity, it's the living that's giving me consent to go into their material space. And the interesting thing is, 9 times out of 10, the beings within that property want to communicate. They want to tell me what's going on. They want to tell me why they're there. They want to tell me about the people who live in the property and how they don't like them, that kind of conversation. But with nobody being able to give consent, I don't know how that would play out. And, my theory is that Sasquatch, Bigfoot are, ethereal. They can go in and out of realms. They can be material and they can be immaterial. And how that would affect them with a human coming to them immaterially, because that's one of their states of being as well. Right. So how they could interact. I might never come back. They might kidnap me. Who knows that would be pretty cool, actually. Kidnapped me in an etherical realm by a Sasquatch. I don't know what would happen. I genuinely don't. It'd be nice to talk to somebody who's already had a go at doing that and to see what kind of results they've had. And I'm sure there's people who've done it. I'm absolutely sure there's people who've done it.
Yeah, because I don't know if you would be allowed in their realm. So if they're dimensional and they leave our planet or our reality and go into theirs, I don't know if you could actually go through there without their permission.
Mm. Yeah, I think that would piss them off. I don't think they'd be very happy about that.
So if you remote viewed say a Bigfoot incident, whether it was whichever one, whatever, you would have to just like literally be an observer from the outside, and if you just happen to see what they did with their dead, then that would be part of that. But to specifically say, okay, I want to see or remote view where their graveyard is, you probably wouldn't be able to do that. I don't know.
You know what? I'm intrigued to give it a go, but I'm totally blaming you guys if something weird happens.
Well, come visit us first. Do our experiment first
will.
before you disappear in the Bigfoot realm.
I think there'd be probably ways around it if if you're polite enough, open enough,
Well,
and you're not there for nefarious reasons. I think just as an animal would is more accepting of people in that state of being than people who are kind of angry or aggressive. I think if you went into it respectfully, it might be worth a try.
well, I would think the Patty incident would be a good one to remote view
Okay.
because supposedly she died. So maybe if you remote view the Bigfoot Patty incident, that maybe
Okay.
you would find out something happened when she died if they came and retrieved her body and took them to their realm. Because that's my theory is that why we don't find any bodies or anything is that the Bigfoot are dimensional and they come in, gather up their dead like we do in wars. We go gather our dead and bring them back home or make sure they're buried. So maybe that would be part of the incident when you're remote viewing for Patty.
Yeah, I'll give that a go. What year was that?
Oh, 1967 or 1968.
That's what
Okay.
I was thinking, 1968.
Late 1960s. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. I'll give it a go. I'll give it a go. Like I say, if you don't see me again, it's been nice knowing you.
It's our just blame us. And Kat just pulled up a good one. Ghost lore.
Oh, well, click on it, or if you want to bring it up.
All right. Oh, wrong one. Well, this goes fast. Is that it? Yeah. Can you read that?
I thought you were going to read it. Oh, well.
I have.
All right. It says, I have a unique question for Kay. Have you or any one of you know or have ever heard of viewing something from a different time, but it comes through as a current modern occurrence, a past life and now?
That often happens, not within a great span of time, but if I'm remote viewing, I've got one particular case in mind where I was remote viewing the property and I was seeing a gentleman of the house, and he was literally kind of leaking psychic energy. That's the only way I can describe it. He was just kind of, it was chaotic, sort of colours and blah, 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 blah. I didn't know what it meant. When I sat down and talked to him about it, he had at one stage sort of dabbled with Reiki and spiritualism, but hadn't really continued because he hadn't quite got to grips with it. And inadvertently, he'd actually opened up a Pandora's box of psychic activity around him because of that and not being able to put it back. But I was seeing him as he looked now, and actually that had all happened when he was a lot younger. And the image that I got of him was different to the face shape that I drew of him at that particular point in time. So, I mean, time in short spaces of time for me are very confusing. If it's a 10-year or 20-year gap, it can be like it happened yesterday. You know, I couldn't put a timeline on it. It's only when people's fashion changes or style of house drastically changes, some kind of indication of a decade. So I can put things in decades. I can't very readily home them down to 1 to 2 years. That's just the way it works. I'm not somebody who gets a clairaudience where I get somebody coming up to me and saying, yeah, 25th of October 1975.
Right.
I don't get that kind of pinpoint, so it's all kind of a bit of a blur. But when I'm there, I'm searching for particular specific energies, as opposed to kind of it's more psychic detective than it is actual factual detective when I'm doing that kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Right. Because I mean that kind of makes sense to me on the fact that, okay, so say the incident happened in 1975, whatever it is, and then if that person is still alive, or if the energy of that person is still progressing, what the image you get now might not be the same image as in 1975, or maybe you'll get the 1975 image of this person, but they look totally different today.
Yeah, I went into one property that we were doing an investigation, and I remote viewed it before I went. And there were two, it was a large mansion, and there were two in my remote view, there were two big sweeping staircases either side as you came in through the hall. And I was really disappointed that there was only one staircase going up onto a balcony, and I was like, I obviously got it wrong. But that had been the original layout of the property, unbeknownst to me. And it wasn't till later on in the evening that the historian said, yes, there were two huge sweeping staircases either side of the balcony going up onto the first floor. So I was seeing it past tense, because that's how the energies in that property knew that property.
Right.
But I couldn't get a fix on the renovations in the property in a modern term.
Oh. Polly brought up an interesting thing. Can we remote view our own selves in the past or future?
Oh, good question. Yeah, I think there's probably, yeah, I think we do that quite a lot anyway without knowing it. I mean, how easy is it to transport yourself back to a particular incident in your life that kind of stands out?
Right.
Most people would find that really easy, just to be in the moment. You know, say you've gone to see a band who's you've loved, and you really, really enjoyed the evening, and the music was just brilliant. You know, how easy it is just to transport yourself back. And that's remote viewing to me. That kind of, the feelings and the visuals and whatever else. In the future, I think we do that in a way. Our future for me is multidimensional. We have so many different streams that come off the now.
Right.
And remote viewing into the future, I'll be very, very careful. But I do that as in I project myself down a life timeline that I want. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. If I think I want to do this next with my life, I want to meet these kind of people, I want to have these kind of experiences, I can visualize them and put myself in them, whether that's remote viewing or whether that's just, life affirmation of moving forward positively. Yeah, that is interesting. I'm going to have all kinds of things to do now, aren't I? See if I can remote view
I
myself
think
in
we
the
do
past.
remote. I think we do remote view ourselves. I mean, think about dreaming and you have a dream of yourself when you're a kid, or like you said, we're just thinking our mind about a birthday party or a special gift we got when we were a kid. Well, we see the whole scene, we play it out in our mind, so that's basically a remote viewing, but it's of our own past lives.
And you tend to do it as an observer as well, which is interesting. It's very rare, I think, that when I have those thoughts that I am in my small body as a child or my previous body, I am literally observing the whole scene. Looking around at who I'm with, looking around at myself, looking at the whole scenario. So
right,
that is remote viewing.
Because it's weird, because one special event of my life was a birthday present, and it wasn't a big wheel, or what a big wheel is from the US. It's
Right.
like it's almost like a tricycle, but it's a cart, and you pedal with your wheels and steer. Well, we had one, that had two big giant round plastic wheels on each side, and you sat in the center and you spun the wheels and you go left, right, or whatever. That was my favorite toy ever that I got. And I can literally picture myself, and I see, like you said, I see myself from like I'm looking down, and I can see my younger self in that thing having fun. That's in my mind, and I've even had dreams of it. So I mean, it is weird. It's like you're right, like almost like an out of body experience.
Yeah, it is, and I don't know. I think there's been very rare occasions, which I'm sure everybody's had, very, very rare occasions in dreams or in those remembrance where you are actually in your past body. It's very rare, and it feels so weird. It feels off, like you shouldn't be there. You shouldn't be there in that instance.
So do you think we could remote view on our sleep without even realizing we're doing it? Because I've
Yeah,
had situations of waking up and remembering a dream or a situation, and then fully waking up, getting a text from that person.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
just kind of go, what? I kind of knew what you were doing a few hours ago. You're lying
Yeah.
to me. You know, if that makes any sense without getting into the detail.
Yeah, I totally think that. I mean, there is theories about sleep is just a place where we energetically work. So, you know, we all have jobs within the astral. So when we're asleep, that's when we work our energetic beings, if you like. And often we will connect with people who we connect with on this material level. And it's all about working things out and working out relationships and working out what the next step is. I mean, I'm a big believer in that whole, at some stage when we were floating around before we were born, that we all signed a contract that we were going to do something with these kind of beings in our life, and we're going to have these kind of relationships to learn certain lessons. And I like to think of dreaming sometimes as you're in a board meeting with those people going, you didn't do that, you know, or you really pissed me off with that kind of thing, you know. But I think some people I've known people who literally battle. They in their sleep they have these huge epic astral battles going off, you know, where they wake up and they haven't rested, and they feel like what they deem as doing God's work, you know, within that kind of realm, and wake up really, really tired all the time.
Right.
So I think we can do you know, a million and one things that we don't believe we can do. And this is the thing, once we start believing in the aspect that we are energetic, you know, it's mind-blowing. The possibilities are just mind-blowing.
So Polly's asking, and I think we kind of talked about it a little bit, what is the difference between remote viewing, astral traveling, and lucid dreaming? Well, I think it's the dream state. Because when you're remote viewing, you're not necessarily in a dream state. You're projecting astrally.
I tend to get into that semi-meditative state. So I'm quite lazy with it. I don't have to put much work into it. I think lucid dreaming is something that happens to you, but it's something that's important and of significance that you need to work out, and it's something that you don't agree to materially. You don't say, I want to have this happen. It kind of happens to you. Dreaming, you know, whether we are consenting in that dream, possibly, I think so. But with the differences with remote viewing is that you give your consent to go into that space, into that field, into that energetic realm. So I just go into a very, very light meditative state. And when I say meditation, people freak out and go, oh, I can't do that. My brain's too busy. It's like, use that busy brain. It can put you into a really good meditative state. And then once I'm there, I'm kind of just in that realm of sleepiness. That's when I go and knock on that front door, and boof, I'm kind of in. And I've never really had any difficulty doing that. There's been some times where I've walked into a property and the first room that I've walked into has been black, like nothing in it, just black
Hmm.
and come back out, and you wander around the house and the house is okay, but that for me symbolizes that there's something very wrong with that room.
Mhm.
And then it's kind of unpicking what's wrong with that particular room. But yeah, I mean, lucid dream is like I say, the way that we do it without stepping into it ourselves. And lucid dreaming, I find absolutely fascinating. We've all had it. You wake up and go, that was realer than real. That was realer than my dinner yesterday. That was just crazy real. And I think that is when you remote view, when you have these interactions on an energetic level.
The other thing, and we've talked to other remote viewers, whether it's Tony Rodriguez or Jessica Jones, about preparing your environment before you remote view. Because I mean, you can't obviously have the kids screaming and the radio blaring or the TV on and dogs barking, to want to go outside. You have to have that tranquil environment around you to be able to concentrate or slip into that meditation, that state.
I'm smiling because I wipe the Doritos dust off my fingers and just nod off. One of the best remote viewings I've ever done. Honestly, I don't do any prep. I don't, it's nice to think that, oh, I'd have incense burning and, very quiet room. One of the best remote viewing that I've ever had has been in the car as a passenger, and just the noise of the road and the radio and just sort of, leaning into just nodding off. I've had some crazy good remote viewing in just that environment. And I think I've got the ability. I sleep like the dead, by the way. My head hits the pillar and I don't move, to the point where I've had people sort of poke me thinking I am something very wrong. So I don't know whether that plays into it, that I can sleep on a park bench and be comfortable. But no ritual with me, I'm afraid. I hate to dispel that kind of witchy myth.
That's the same with me. Jane asks me all the time. I can sleep in a moving car. I could fall asleep anywhere. Actually, I think I've actually fell asleep standing up once. Of course, it was at work and I was tired, but
I think all good couples have one person who's an insomniac and the other one that sleeps like the dead.
Yeah.
I think that they're the couples that work the best.
Yeah, he sleeps, I don't.
Yeah.
The older I get, the worse it gets too. Maybe we don't need as much sleep when we're older.
Yeah, you're close. We're close enough. We're getting close enough now that we'll sleep when we're dead.
Oh my gosh.
Polly wants to know, can anybody learn to remote view? And we talked about that. We think everybody is able to do it.
Yeah, I genuinely do. I'm going to go out next month actually and do a workshop on it. And I've done a couple of workshops before on remote viewing. And the one thing that I always say is the only thing that will stand in your way of any remote viewing is doubt. So however you want to get comfortable, however you want to enter into that, however you want to talk yourself into that state of, what sits comfortably for you with the ethics and whatever, you get that sorted to start off with. Make sure that you know what you're doing and why you're doing it. That's the big thing. Don't just like me go and remote view Bigfoot just for the hell of it to start with. Maybe if a friend of yours has lost a set of keys, maybe start off with that. Don't second guess yourself. So if you're looking for a set of keys and you're given I don't know, something really random that shouldn't be in a house, like a bus, and you're given that symbol, don't second guess yourself. Try it, tell that person, say, I've seen a bus, does that make any sense? And see where you go with it. And I think just practicing it with people who you feel safe to practice it with as well. One of the ways that I learned was during spiritual circle. The leader would hide little leprechauns, tiny weeny little leprechauns around the hall before we'd got there. And one of the exercises was to remote view where these tiny weeny leprechauns were. And I loved that because you got to keep the leprechauns afterwards. So I was like, I'm going to find as many leprechauns as I can.
Oh my!
Wow. Now this is interesting.
Mhm.
I need to find it again. Gosh darn it. So they wanted me to ask you how is it possible for me to see inside a dream of another person already had and described people in it? So we had a guest not too long. Well, it's been a while now, I guess, but we talked about where her and her friends would agree to go into a dream together, and that night they would all be in the same dream.
Oh, okay.
I haven't got any friends, so I can't do that.
No friends.
But if you no friends, but if you have got friends who you feel a real connection with, that you've got a real tight connection with, it'd be an interesting exercise. It'd be an interesting exercise. But I think with all these things, you have to have more of a purpose than just to do it. You know,
Right.
so say that the purpose of this is to see if we can actually do it and see if we are energetic beings within this space. So with all these things within the psychic, just make sure that you lay out your boundaries, lay out what you want to discover from it, and don't just go, I just want to find out and just muck around. And I think that's where people come unstuck. How you can get into somebody else's dreams to see what they're seeing, again, consent is a big thing. It's
Right.
it's like when you're in these circles, one of my pet hates is people who are leaky psychics or leaky mediums. So, you're going out to the pub in an evening and somebody comes up to you and says, "Oh, I think I've got your granddad with me." And it's like, "Oh, well, I never asked. I don't want this reading from you. I don't, I appreciate that you think you're trying to help, but it's the intention and understanding the ethics and being polite, I think. Or is that just me being very British?
Yeah, I don't think us as Americans would care whether you liked it or not. We would just do it probably.
I'm being too British then.
It's like we might knock on the door, but it's as we're opening it. Say, okay, here we are. Yeah,
Oh,
I
bless.
think it is. I mean, I think as a British, I think the politeness would be the knocking first. I think a lot of times Americans, we just barge in.
But yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Because you wouldn't think that was disrespectful either, would you? That is just a kind of a cultural. I would think a cultural thing with you.
My dad always used to say the biggest thing when you're at work or whatever you're doing, it says it's better to go ahead and do it and ask for forgiveness later.
Yeah, I've heard that one. Yeah, ask for forgiveness and not ask for permission, isn't it? It's better to ask for
Yeah.
forgiveness than it is to ask for permission.
Yes,
Yeah,
you just do
I'm
it, and usually they'll like, oh, okay, I don't like it, but it's okay this time. Don't do it again.
Yeah, I'm too polite. I know there's other British people watching. Oh, are we too polite? Andy, are you still there? Are we too polite?
That's funny.
Wow. So what I'm trying to think of where else we can go. This has been fascinating and fun. I can't believe we've been in an hour and 20 minutes already.
Andy said,
I
yes,
know.
we are.
Yes, we are, Andy. We're far too polite.
So I
Do you
think what you need is an American teammate on your team, so we can take the brunt of it for you. We'll take all that politeness out. We'll just go ahead and do it for you and get you in the door.
You
And then
guys are polite. You
no,
guys are
I know
super
we try
polite.
to be.
You are. You are.
I know.
Wish
I
I
know.
was.
Experiment that we're going to do when you come remote view our house beforehand. I will show you a picture of say the buffet or something with all the objects on it, and before you remote view our place, I will change one of the objects and put in something new there to see if you can notice it.
Okay. And so can you do something else? Can you hide something unusual in an unusual place? That I'm more kind of connected with that kind of the curious out of placeness of stuff.
Okay.
Just move a random object somewhere where it shouldn't be.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, that would be fun.
And
That'd
then
be
in the
fun.
future, if you remote view the Patty incident,
Mhm.
if you let us know when you think you're going to do it, maybe I will try to join
Yes.
during a dream state or something, or try to do it at the
Yeah.
same time that you're doing it. And that way I can, if you disappear in the Bigfoot realm, I will try to help you or let people know what happened to you.
I'm
He's
not both
gone.
of you. You're both going to get lost.
We're both going to get lost. Because I
Yeah.
probably would go. I'd probably go in after you. Or I'd push you out of the way and go first, probably. I don't know.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind going. We should get a bunch of people to do it. That would be really interesting.
All at the
A bunch
same
of people
time.
to, because I do believe that people's collective energies as well really enhance that kind of experience, can really kind of, even if you're all over the world, if you say this particular time we are going to go in and have a look at this case to see if that collective energy really boosts up remote viewing as a whole for us all.
Yeah, that would be a great experiment, actually. Because I remember on the Art Bell show, Coast to Coast, when they had a big major storm coming through, and he got everybody in his radio listening because he had millions of viewers, listeners, and they all prayed and thought about that storm, and they actually diverted it. They actually changed it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the power of prayer, isn't it? It's that kind of it's the arrowhead of energetic thought into something. It's such a powerful thing. The thing is, we do not understand how powerful we are as individuals in the collective. We have no understanding. I mean, people like ourselves and people who watch this show will have an inclination, but there are thousands of people out there that don't even consider it. Don't even consider that you are more than just this meat suit, on this rock. We are more than just what we think we are. And we've definitely had it. I think somebody said in the comments earlier about, as children, we have these things squished out of us through education systems and whatnot. And I totally believe that. I totally believe that we get it knocked out of us because it's not conducive to being good worker bees and to, doffing your hat to the government and that kind of thing, when you can just think, I don't need to do those things. I can literally change the world. We can literally change the world.
Here's Jessica, the Cryptus Hundredth. She's our friend that's a remote viewer, and she does a lot of it on her show. So I think that would be an awesome project or experiment to do. Try to get as many people to concentrate on the Patty incident all at the same time during the same time period, and see what we all come up with.
Yeah, definitely. Even if it's, what would be even more interesting if we had a group of people who'd never tried remote viewing before, never had those kind of lucid incidents, to see whether that kind of when you don't have an expectation of what you're doing, you don't have an expectation of what you're going into, whether that would bring something else to the dynamics of a group remote viewing. It may just give an energy boost to the group as a whole.
Yeah. I mean, could you imagine the incident or the film where Patty's walking through across that riverbed or creek bed, and we have remote viewers lined up all the way around the outside to be able to see it from every angle, what happened during that incident? That would be amazing.
Yeah, it would. And we're all going to go into Bigfoot land. That'll be a whole load of us. We won't be on our own.
Maybe that's what we should do. Maybe we should set up an astral travel service where we will take you and you can just jump into Bigfoot dimensions, and we'll set that up for you.
That would be good, wouldn't it? That like Bigfoot Airlines or something like that. Holiday with the Sasquatch.
You want to go on vacation? Join us on astral travel. Where would you like to go?
The specialty of the
It's-
day is sniffing fairies.
Oh yeah, it's gotta be. It's gotta be. I should really remote view and ask the fairies what they smell like. Mind you, they'd probably
Yeah,
lie to me.
yeah.
They'd probably lie. They'd probably tell me they smell like pixie dust or something.
Yeah, we smell sweet.
Pixie
What are you
dust.
talking about? Why would you even ask? Have you ever talked to anybody remote viewing?
Yes. Yes.
Oh.
What as I'm remote viewing? As I'm in there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Oh.
the first TV one that I did, I had knocked on the door, politely gone in, and I was met by this crazy, crackly, spiky energy that was just running around the house, left, right, and centre. And I know you mean humans, and I will get to that side of it. Anyway, this thing stopped dead and kind of started to morph into a humanoid shape. And it was surprised that I was there and that I could see it. And it started jumping up and down, and it was really, really angry, and it was babbling at me in a language that I couldn't understand. But then this is the weird part. This is like dream within a dream. It started giving me images of why it was mad, why it was upset. So
Oh.
it gave me the image of an orchard and a tree being chopped down, and it was indicating that was my tree, they chopped it down, kind of thing. And as I said, okay, I hear you, I can pass on this information to the homeowners. So it calmed down and it changed form again into this. It looked like a very sort of Celtic, Normandy, French kind of little character.
Huh.
So this is the first time I'd ever been on TV and I've been asked to remote view. So I had to go back and say, yes, I've seen something, but you're not going to like it, because they were expecting me to come across a ghost, and there were ghosts about, but they weren't very interactive. So I told them, and they were like, well, hold on, we'll go and ask the homeowners. You can find it all online, the whole series online. And the activity, they chopped down a tree, yep. And this thing was throwing things, poltergeist activity. What they didn't show in TV program, because it would have made it too long, the couple had actually chopped down a tree in France, and this thing had followed them from France. So they had activity in their chateau in France. They had moved back into England. They chopped down another tree, and it kicked off the activity again. This little pixie thing that I was seeing was French. And it's only after they said that it had happened in France that I realised he was speaking French to me. And he was really angry and kind of blithering on in and that blew my mind. And the psychic medium at the time, Chris Fleming, he actually verified having seen that before he'd got my information. So he had done a drawing of the being that I had encountered, and that was absolutely mind-blowing. I've spoken to fairies within that. I've spoken to other entities, and I've spoken to the dead. The living seemed to be a totally different category. It's almost like I'd feel like I was giving them a jump scare if I was to start talking to them.
Oh.
But I don't know whether I think I might try that as well. You're going to get me into loads of trouble trying all this stuff out,
Way to go, Daryl.
Huh?
Yeah, I mean, that's our job. Our job is to get you to do stuff that we can't do or won't do.
Your job
But
is
I
to get me
imagine-
into loads of trouble.
So it makes me wonder how many people who have a paranormal haunting where they've heard voices that are actually remote viewers talking to them, not the dead.
that is one theory. That the
Yeah.
one theory is it could be astral projection, it could be time slip, where you're actually talking to somebody who isn't dead, and the haunting activity is somebody in a time slip situation. It could be somebody asleep. Is it? I don't know whether it's in the Eighth Tower or the Mothman prophecy, where he talks about how his friend was absolutely convinced that he'd been there for about 6 hours, having a cup of tea with him in his front room, and they were talking. And he was never there, and he was convinced it was a physical exchange, because they had that kind of connection. How many times has that happened without us even knowing it, where we've had an interaction with a solid human being, and they may not have been there? We may have been having this really real, lucid, astral interface with somebody. Possibilities are endless, aren't they? Really?
They are. They
Yeah.
are. I mean, you don't really know when you have these whether you're experiencing a paranormal thing or whether you're remote viewing. You don't know how people are perceiving you necessarily.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I had an incident many years ago. I was walking through the town centre. Classic case of everything went quiet. I mean, it was busy. There was hundreds of people about. And it was a classic case of everything went quiet momentarily. And then I got tunnel vision that pinpointed a person quite far away. But as they were coming towards me, I realised it was my auntie. I hadn't seen my auntie at that point for about 15 years. Family breakdown meant that I hadn't seen her. And she came towards me and she didn't even look at me. She just went past. And I just thought, maybe she doesn't recognize me because I was a child last time she saw me. But it felt empty. And I rang my mum and I said, I've just seen my auntie in town. It's the first, and it's just freaked me out. The first time I've seen her in years and years, because it wasn't her local town. And we found out about 6 weeks later, maybe a bit more, that she'd actually passed away the week before I'd actually seen her in town. Now, did I see her ghost? Did I see some kind of projection of the universe telling me that she'd passed? I mean, what is going? Was that an astral interface that we were having? Who knows?
Right. And Andy just brought that up, kind of says, how do we know when we meet and chat with a stranger off the cuff that they are a living human? Whether
I've
they're
got the simple answer for you, Andy. Simple answer: poke them.
Poke them?
Poke them.
Yeah, so Andy, go up to the bench guy and just start poking the bench guy next time you see him.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of that. Yeah,
sniff
that's
him
crazy.
too. Let me know what he smells like.
Yeah,
Go sniff
definitely.
the bench guy.
Yeah, go sniff the bench guy, Andy.
So if they smell and they jump when you poke them, you're pretty much guaranteed that they're
Yeah,
human.
like the Pillsbury Doughboy. If you makes a little giggle, and then you'll know.
Just don't poke the robot grandma.
Yeah, that wouldn't.
Why wouldn't come on? I am not in with this. What is robot grandma? I'm not. I'm not
Andy
up with this
didn't
one.
know either. We blew up his chat one day about robot grandma, and he finally said, "What are you guys talking about?" And we're just laughing about robot grandma in his chat.
So one of the stories from Mount Shasta being spooky and haunted and all this mysterious stuff going on is a little boy got lost.
Yeah.
And when he was later brought back, he talked about a second grandma, one that looked just like his living grandma that he's with his family with, but was there when he was lost at Mount Shasta, and helped him, kept, I don't know if he kept him fed or whatever, but he could tell it wasn't his real grandma, but it looked just like it. And it was kind of like mechanical or some kind of android things, but it wasn't his grandma, but it looked and acted just like his grandma and took care of him like his grandma.
And he called it robot grandma.
I don't know where they came up, maybe from the story later they termed it robot grandma. I don't know, maybe he said it, but he knew it was kind of mechanical or different than his grandma that wasn't a human being somehow.
Wow.
That'd be a nice remote viewing. Remote view robot grandma.
Now,
You
if
are
you're,
trying
if
to
you,
get me whisked away.
well, the thing is, if you remote view robot grandma, there's also supposedly like reptilian lizard people there at the same time as robot grandma thing was going on. So I don't know if you want to go there or not, but
No, I think I'll stay away from lizard face. Thank you. I don't. Yeah, they frighten me. They worry me.
so before we end today, this one's very interesting. Shelly wants to know, have you ever had a remote viewer pop in and want you to go looking for something with them while you're...
Oh, wow. Wow.
So are we talking remote viewer pop in while I've been remote viewing?
I
Or
assume, or maybe a remote reviewer came to you and asked you if you would go with them and remote view something. I'm assuming maybe you're remote viewing and somebody else came in at the same time and say, hey, come over and help me with this. I don't know.
I mean, I have remote viewed with other people, which is it's really interesting. It's a totally different energy because you go into a meditative state first as a group, and then you come out of that meditative state and you use that kind of relaxed state of being, using maps or whatever to and talk about any symbols or any words or any letters, and you kind of bounce off each other, which makes a really interesting session. While I've been remote viewing, no, the only thing that I've ever been asked, and I'm constantly asked when I'm remote viewing, especially from these other entities, other energies, and from the dead, is they want people to know why they're there. They genuinely want people to know what's going off. I mean, you get
Right.
some that are narcissistic, and I've had one or two that have been incredibly narcissistic and just like feeling powerful and mentally torturing people. But usually the entities, the non-human entities, are they're like, imagine if a dog could speak and bounds up to you and kind of wants to tell you everything all at once and that kind of thing. So all interesting stuff. I think the world's wide open, isn't it?
It is. Well, our world and other worlds, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, unless you got something else exciting or want to talk about, I think we'll go ahead and stop for the day. I mean, we can keep going if you'd like. Is there anything
I
else you
don't
want to
mind
touch
either way.
on?
Other than I am very English right now, and I am melting into a puddle. It's gone over our 15 degrees. We are experiencing our 1 week of summer right now, and we're all
Oh, wow.
dying of heat exhaustion. And you guys wouldn't even think it's warm. You'd come over and go, I'm putting a jumper on, but we're all like, it's warm.
I like the videos I see on TikTok where people from the UK come over to the US and think, oh man, it's cold here. And they see people walking by in tank tops and shorts. It's like, aren't you
Yeah.
freezing? Well, how come you're not cold? The same thing with the heat. They do the same videos with the heat.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy what you can tolerate and what you can't. It's in a nice country, in a hot tropical country, it's great. Swimming pool, cocktail. But in Britain, we have no AC, we've no swimming pools, and cocktails aren't readily available.
Ah,
That's why Andy said he's got 4 fans on.
Yes, Andy. Isn't it hot? Andy, anybody else out there from the UK right now, just let these guys know how uncomfortable this is for Brits. I have to go into the supermarket and go into the freezer section just to cool down. It's that hot. We have no respite from it at this. But it'll last 2 weeks, and then we'll all be moaning that it's raining. Guaranteed.
I don't know who else. I know Andy's in the chat. Catheta Ghost Lore, she's from the UK's in the chat. So we got a few people that are sober Carper.
Yeah,
it's horrible. Yeah,
Andy
sober, it's
says
horrible.
It's 80 Fahrenheit now here.
I don't know what it is in Fahrenheit. I can never do the math on that, but it's going to get hotter tomorrow, Andy. I mean, seriously hotter tomorrow.
We were running in the low 90s in the Fahrenheit for a while, and the heat index was in the hundreds. So yeah, we went through a nasty heat spell. It was miserable.
It's
And then
not
you
that-
got 100% or maybe 1,000% humidity, which is
Oh,
just
you get humidity
miserable.
too.
Oh, we got
It
bad humidity. Yeah.
Mm.
Here
Really
in
bad.
Yeah,
Illinois,
I don't-
here in Illinois, we do.
Yeah. It just
Yeah,
makes it
I
even
don't-
hotter.
So 90 degrees
No.
Fahrenheit for us is right there at the hot, starting to get hot, really hot. I mean, high 80s and 90s. So 90 degrees Fahrenheit is 32.2 Celsius.
We've got that tomorrow. We've got 35 tomorrow. 35.
So that'd be like our
Celsius
90
tomorrow.
degree day that we consider hot.
Wow. You must be getting our heat wave that we
Yeah.
had for about a week then. It was nasty. Yeah. Like
I am not looking
my
forward to
sisters
it.
live in Phoenix. It's 113 degrees in Phoenix today.
No.
Yeah.
I'd be a puddle. I'd literally be a liquid puddle.
Well, I tell you what, you should go do a remote view of a tropical, nice, cooler climate somewhere of the nice sea breeze.
Yeah. I'm going to go to the Antarctic. That's where I'm going to astrally project tonight. I'm going to go to view the polar bears or the penguins, whichever way it goes.
Oh my goodness. This has been a crazy show.
Well, Kate, this has been fun. We love having you on here. It's always interesting talking with you. I hope we don't get you in too much trouble, but I do want you to travel into the Bigfoot realm if you can.
Yeah, don't disappear on us in remote viewing.
I'll give it a go. I'll definitely give it a go. But we should definitely set a date and get a group of people together too.
Yeah, I'd like to do that. I'll have to see. Maybe Jessica and Andy can help us out, and we'll all do just a great big group experiment.
Yeah,
That'd
be
be
good.
fun.
Yeah.
So before we go, is there anything else you'd like to tell anybody about your website, your podcast with Andy, or your normal podcast? Just go ahead and give them the info. And
So you can find me Hare in the Hawthorne. Me and Andy catch up. We're trying to do it once a month to co-host. So that's Hare in the Hawthorne on YouTube. My new book's out, which is, if you look up, it's called The Boggers. So that's out and available on Amazon. I've got loads of bits and bobs of TV coming out over the next year, which is super exciting. I'll probably watch none of it because I cringe every time I see myself on television, but I enjoy doing it. I enjoy getting out there and doing it. Loads going off. Top of my head, my brain's melted. So yeah, that's about it, I think.
all right. Well, thank you for coming. Don't go anywhere quite yet. We'll just say goodbye to everybody in chat. Thank you guys for all the wonderful questions and going along with us and making us think out of the box. I love it when people ask questions that I've never thought of or brings us to some new subject that's like, oh, I never thought about that. So that's what we love about chat and our community. So thank you, everybody, for being here, and we will see you next time.
And we will have Kate back.
Yeah. If she makes it back from the Big Felt room, we will have her back to report on
Probably
it.
not.
All right, everybody. Love you. Keep looking up.
Yep. Love you. We love you, mods. We love everybody. And we will see you next time. And keep your vibrations high. Stay away from fear.
Stay away from fear. Absolutely. All right. Love you guys.
All right. Love you.